Hello and welcome back to the Sekimeiya Spun Glass. Last time around, we were in the process of being found while we were hiding, I think in the lobby, from everyone else, essentially, from this world that we're in. But I also got told, I don't remember if it was the last or the episode before that, it was quite a while ago, that this apparently is not a sort of just a question the game asks you, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Do you know? It's actually a choice, which I wasn't aware of, didn't realize while I was playing it. So, that's what we'll get into first. I would hope that, all of the choices so far have been that one will lead to death eventually, or some kind of other ending where there's a clear cutoff point. That usually doesn't take too long, so I hope this doesn't lead us down a whole nother route that takes like 20 hours to get through. Probably not, but we'll see. We'll move back to here, and we'll say that will work. For those who don't remember, this was about a plan ASCII had that I don't remember. Let us read through, actually. Where did it start? The concept of different worlds I have is rough, but I was thinking of something. If I saved Mia, my plan was to go back to my initial world, as I couldn't stay in this one. That would allow this world to exist at the very least. But after saving her, I could travel to the other world with Mia, which would result in the same effect. The other world would end up with her, while this one wouldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do that, though. I'd already accepted Mia's death once. Even if I was able to bring her to our world, would that truly be better? I would just create avoidable pain in another. However, in other words, I believe it's possible that Mia and the tower came from a different world from one in which she didn't die. That would explain why she was there with no influence of mine. Everything regarding other worlds was too hypothetical. I had to stick to what I'd planned. I'll make sure she doesn't die. I'll make this world into the one we wanted, then I'll have to abandon it, but at least I'll know it exists. After November 30th, I'll go back in time and prevent her death. After that, I'll change worlds, hopefully arriving in the one I was in. If that works, I won't want to change the past. My goal will be to find the real Shiria, who I'm sure will be there at one point. Maybe when she disappeared with Naomi, or maybe when she was in the tower with different clothes. At the end of it all, we can leave together. And we said that will not work last time, so we'll try the other option, and we'll probably get like a little narrator thing again. That will work, I will say. Yes. It would work. ASCII was sure of it. He had to dispel his doubts and be confident he would succeed. There were 5 days until the 30th, but there was nothing he could do until then. He didn't leave the hostel. It had all the food he needed and a bedroom to sleep in. Oh, was that where... it was only 2 episodes ago or so. But was that where ASCII then realized the Sekimeiya situation wouldn't work, and that's why... Or is this already after that? I don't remember. We'll see. While the final day approached, he made sure the Sekimeiya worked. He traveled a few minutes through time and confirmed that all he'd learned still applied. Okay, no, that's not what happened. That Sekimeiya stuff happened before this. November 30th came. ASCII was still in that room, although it would soon be his time to act. He didn't take his eyes off the clock. At 9 p.m. he could hardly breathe, remembering what had once happened. It must have already occurred by that point. Mia was likely dead. He hated that it had been allowed to repeat, but otherwise his plan could have been hindered. Even though the time had passed, he couldn't go to the shop for fear of being recognized. He had to wait until the morning news to know if everything had repeated as he'd once experienced it. He stared at the ceiling all night. The moment the sun rose, he went to the cafeteria and turned on the television. His eyes bored holes into the screen, waiting for the news to begin. Once it did, a mass of headlines were shown at once. He didn't see it. None of them had been about a gas explosion in Yoshigana. It couldn't be. There was no way that wouldn't have made the local news. He kept changing the channel, but there was no mention of what should have happened the previous night. Had he made a mistake? When that thought occurred to him, he dashed out of the hostel. He ran toward the stone buildings as fast as the snow allowed him. When he reached the street, he was able to see it in the distance. There was light in Musashi Gemstones. He didn't stop running. He burst through the door and gaped at the owner in disbelief. Oh, you're back. What's with the rush? Oh, what? He looked at the far side of the shop. The floor was intact. Did anything happen yesterday? What do you mean? No? I don't know what you mean. What are you talking about? After seeing the undamaged shelves, there was a question Atsuki had to ask. What about the Sekimeiya? The Seki... How do you know about that name? I was planning to use it in the future. Atsuki ran out of the shop, ignoring the owner's shouts. He ran to a nearby bus station where he'd met Shirei and Miya on that final day. There is nothing there. Atsuki recalled having seen a flyer with the words the Sekimeiya stuck on the post. Next, he ran to his own house. There's light in the windows. I'm not in a hospital. Oh no, so this was before Atsuki went and hid the Sekimeiya up on the mountain. And that's why the Sekimeiya... Actually no. But then the shop owner would not know the name. Would he? Something. Wait, let me actually just quickly check. Where would I have roughly been? Okay, that was still all after, I'm pretty sure. Wait, this chapter is so long. Where actually was it? Actually, wait a second. Surely it's gonna be a bit more clear in this. Why didn't I think of that first? Yeah. That was before. Okay. Yeah, he goes there on November something? 28th? 27th? Either way, he goes there in chapter 9. And I believe this is where he goes over his plan. So it does happen later. The possibility that the Sekimeiya weren't found arises in my head. Okay, so he didn't do that in this timeline. Now we know. So how did the gem shop owner find the Sekimeiya then? If they weren't on the mountain? Or was it just that the whole part about Sin bringing him a fake... No. Why was Sin there to begin with? Were they trying to steal the Sekimeiya? Because the fake gemstone they only swapped out once the real Sekimeiya were already in the tower. Or did they just go there to acquire it? I think maybe they just went there to acquire information? It's been a while. Either way, there's no Sekimeiya display. There's no event happening in the tower. I think that's what we can gather for sure. He couldn't believe it. The explosion hadn't happened. Why? And what next? He had no idea what to do, so he stood paralyzed. However, that was what he'd wanted. He hadn't done anything, but the result had been the same. Speechless, he waited in front of his house. Light snow began to fall, but he kept watching his window. He could see a figure behind it, similar to his own. He realized he'd been there for hours when his front door opened. It really was his own self, with an expression he'd personally long since abandoned. He didn't hide, but it didn't seem like he'd been seen. He saw his own body walking ahead, so he followed him. Eventually, they reached Suta Della Park. Miya and Shirei were there, waving at him. It was what he'd most wanted. Those days were continuing beyond November 30th. But there was something more pressing within Atsuki's mind. It didn't make sense. It was a world that didn't make sense. Impossible perfection. Okay, so this is basically an ending that's like, here you've got everything you ever wanted, but it never made any sense to begin with, so forget that ever happened. Or something along those lines. So, it had not worked. Oh, see every alternate ending. Okay. I do think we're fairly close to the end of the game because there's some websites that tell you roughly how long games are. And the one I usually use says that the main story of the Sekimeiya is about 40 hours or so, like 40 to 45. And if you do like every alternate ending, it comes to about 53, 54 hours. And I've already played for about 51 hours. So I think we're closing in on the ending, maybe a couple hours more. So what I'd like to ask at this point of everyone listening, there's probably going to only be 3-4 more episodes. What's next? Are there any games similar to this? Is there anything you'd like to see? I won't promise that I'll definitely play what you suggest me, but I will definitely take a look and see if there's something that interests me. Something I thought of was, some of you may have seen I did a playthrough of the Zodiac Killer on the channel a year or so ago, maybe 1.5 years, and I quite liked that game, and the developers, they did another game before that, and I thought about playing through that, but we'll see. Feel free to point me to any suggestions that you like. And with that, we're going back in. We're going to the point in time where the search party, our regular group, is going to find our ASCII. But will they? No. I wouldn't be found. I knew that. I didn't want to be found. The time where everyone would disappear was very close. However, the steps in the hallway unnerved me all the same. There was no way to avoid it. I couldn't hide anywhere. The Sekimeiya aren't here. I don't know where the future one is, but the past one is in hallway B. A door opened very close to the room I was hiding in. I could hear cabinets being opened, then footsteps came toward me. The doorknob shook slightly and the door slowly opened. I saw my own body stepping in. As he approached one of the cabinets, I knew there was only one thing I could do. This is very... What? He turned around with a startled gasp. His reaction was even more drastic when he saw me. What? Who are you? Are you... me? I nodded, although it wasn't the entire truth. This is very important. Stay here until the search is finished. He couldn't fathom what he was seeing, however he had already travelled through time. What was being presented was simply a request that he could take for granted. The way he saw it, there was no reason not to trust what he himself was saying. Wait, why? Why are you here? Quiet. It's so that I'm not found, and just trust me, please. He nodded. It was the same thing I would have done. I took a deep breath, then hesitantly I approached the cabinets. I had to look through them so that the noise of looking through rooms continued. Right, the third Sekimeiya is here. I'd forgotten that it was brought here before Aaron and Isla came to this room. This is the cabinet where my past self will see it. That means that the person who left this room was the ASCII from this world. I acted as if I hadn't found anything. When I was done, I walked to the door before glancing at ASCII. From the despondent look in his eyes, I could tell that he was in a worse place mentally than I had been during the incident. I looked horrible. Maybe he really was the ASCII who'd written that note. The whole group was in hallway C. As if nothing had happened, I walked to the security room first. I'd been able to camouflage in addition to something else. If I hadn't been there, the Sekimeiya would have been found, but I could prevent that. Just so that nothing else would happen, I could avoid finding them. It was better if no one used them during the time that remained. Stay there. I'll look at the mechanical room again. When I stepped into the lobby, I saw Suripo's body on the floor. Blood covered both him and the floor, evidently caused by the knife wound I'd heard them discussing. I still couldn't believe it. I hadn't expected that at all. Everyone else was alive, but Suripo's corpse had suddenly appeared in the lobby. I didn't like doing it, but I crouched down and verified he was dead. Then, to avoid being suspected, I went to the mechanical room as if I was searching through the floor normally. I began with hallway B. Immediately, I found the Sekimeiya in the first room, B1. I felt the hot air around it. It had been powered on for a while already. This is the future Sekimeiya. When I was in the other crystal room, I heard someone here. After killing Suripo, this is where his killer left the future Sekimeiya. It wasn't until I entered the very last crystal room, B6, that I found the past Sekimeiya. I had to quickly withdraw my hand. The air surrounding it was even hotter. There's nobody here. I didn't find a Sekimeiya or any potential hiding spot we don't know of. If Naomi's here, she's somehow above us. Are you sure you were thorough? You know some cabinets have compartments inside? The Sekimeiya could be there. Yes, I looked in all of them. Even the ones with temperature regulation. Did you make sure to close them? Those two, yeah. It took me a bit to figure out how to open them. I knew how suspicious what I was saying was. Some people knew the Sekimeiya were in the rooms I'd just investigated, but I didn't care. Before proceeding, I looked at both bathrooms and opened the elevator. I'll keep it open so that it can't be used. Alright, let's go. I went up first as I couldn't bring myself to look into anyone's eyes. Nothing. Wait here. Can I do it instead? Huh? Yeah, sure. Mia entered the partitions. I'd really just talked to her as if she had never died. But I'd been able to see that she was suffering too. The world we were in wasn't yet what it could be. I dug my fingernails into my palm, telling myself that the result would be worth everything. I didn't find anything. You looked everywhere, right? Yes, but did the others not come? I think they stayed on the crystal floor and let us go by ourselves. Really? Yes, and we should continue. We have to find something, be it Naomi or the Sekimeiya. Right now, the others have just found the secret area in the storeroom. My past self is already out of there. We went to the third floor, which was empty. Then, quietly, we walked up the stairs again. When Mia came out of the partitions, I was about to keep going, but she was looking down at the floor. With very dead eyes, I got to say. Nothing again? She shook her head. If she's in the attic, she won't be able to take the elevator down, but this is very strange. We headed to the staircase. Are you alright? Huh? Yes. You look zoned out. Are you tired? A bit. It's okay. Alright, but don't push yourself. Her mood seemed to have suddenly changed. She appeared a little disoriented, so I decided to look through the 5th floor partitions while she stayed outside. I don't really expect Naomi to be in these, but it all gets weirder every time we move on. Could a secret place that Kate doesn't know about exist? There's no way, right? If the answer is somehow a hidden spot, he must have made use of it as well. She didn't reply, opting to continue looking down instead. It made my stomach turn. She was alive, and I was sure she was pushing herself to be strong, but her sudden change had made it evident how hard it was. I felt like there was something else buried in her eyes. I didn't know if I was imagining it, but I grimaced and kept moving forward. You have the key, right? She nodded and took the keyring out of her purse. No recent footprints. It'll be fine if you stay here. If I don't find anyone, I'm gonna be very confused. I went through every room. As expected, they were all empty. I don't get it. Is Naomi never with us then? How is this possible? I know we've already been here for a long time, but that doesn't make it any less confusing. Where the hell is the Sekimeiya also? Let's just go back down. I hope they trust what we tell them. We can't even take the elevator, damn it. She didn't have anything to say. We went all the way back down, but that awkward silence hung around me the entire time. Where the hell are they? The storeroom? Oh, well, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be back. I had to leave. The real Atsuki would soon reappear. But it was hard to turn around. Mia was right there in front of me. A friend who I'd thought I'd never see again, and who I might have been looking at for the very last time. As I walked to the bathroom, I noticed she was going to the storeroom. I stopped myself when she was inside. I approached it, intrigued as to what they were talking about. We'll go to the attic pretty soon. I can listen in without being seen. I saw that they were all next to the secret door. I hid inside the crystal room at its left. I approached the wall and put my ear against it. Atsuki had just finished looking through the whole floor. Exactly. I can hear them well enough. What I think is that this door leads outside. The storeroom now stretches farther out than the crystal rooms, and it's a hidden locked door that would explain the policeman's appearance and Naomi's vanishing. Oh, wait, really? If a policeman entered, why did nobody else? He kept talking about the door. I knew it led outside, but it hadn't opened since that morning. Finally, the other Atsuki returned. The fuck is this? Here he is. Do you know how to pick a lock? What? No. He was told about the discovery. Side noticed the storeroom was open while he was going up the stairs. Did you really not know about this? I promise I didn't. I also don't think this door leads outside. There's no way I wouldn't have ever noticed it. And it makes sense that you didn't know about it if it doesn't lead outside. I'm just speechless. This room is practically unused, but I can't believe this existed. I know that's Kate, but I'm just not going to make voices if I don't know who's speaking. Now a few things make sense at least. As you said, nobody was found, so Naomi must have been here at some point. Yes, I'd like to advise you all on something. I've made sure that if this door is opened again, I'll be able to tell. Okay, that was Sai. Huh? What? How? I'm not telling you that. One of you could potentially manage to open this, so I'd rather not give you any indication of what I've done. What is this about? I think that's fair. It wouldn't be wise to demand that you tell us. Just trust me, I will know it if the door opens. However, it's possible it won't, and that the plan already finished after the Sekimeiya was brought outside. Let's go to the attic. To the attic? Why? Do you think I'll believe you were walking around for hours and we didn't see you? You either went through this door or you were in the attic. He wasn't with us, we know that much. You've said that before, I know. How do you intend to know whether I was there? I won't allow anyone in lightly. No? Then how come they spent 3 hours sleeping there? I haven't forgotten about that. In the off chance Naomi's still in the tower, she's up there, being covered by the 3 of you. I want to go see it by myself, and I'm sure Akira and Erina aren't content with your words alone. They left the storeroom and the crystal floor. The rest happened as I'd already experienced it. I stayed in that room until my past self went up. I'd chosen to hide in one of the second floor bathrooms, an unlikely place to be revisited. I went to hallway B. I knew Sai would be the first one to return and that he'd look through the hallway A rooms. It happened even sooner than I recalled. Evidently discontent with my search, he walked from room to room. He didn't care about the third Sekimeiya. He'd been the one to leave it there. When he came to hallway B, I was already in a room in hallway A. I just had to wait. Sai would find the future Sekimeiya and bring it to the event room. Then the others would find the past Sekimeiya and walk to the event room. The future Sekimeiya would be activated in the event room. It was the one that had been grey, and I was far enough from its range. That would leave me alone in the tower with my past self. And so we wait. I'm sure everything has taken shape in your mind, but I wonder what shape that is. You remember this world, don't you? In it, many things weren't what they seemed. Its real shape is the last key you will need to reach the peak. Okay, very ominous game, thank you. 2 people waited in the lobby. 9 was approaching. At that point, you might have realized something was wrong. Shiria wasn't there. Mia was occupying her place. However, her name was spoken before the doors opened. Shiria? I'd managed to leave my mind blank, but I abruptly turned around when I heard a quiet voice coming from my left. A man was crouching next to me, and when he stood up, I saw his older face underneath white hair. Kate said Shiria's name. Because of Shiria's ticket, right? I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I have vague memories of this. I'm pretty sure I realized at one stage why it was Shiria's name that was being said, but that was also already like I don't know, 2 months ago at this stage for me. But I'm pretty sure it was the ticket. I don't think either of those have made much sense, so I'm going to go with that. Is this yours? I think you dropped it. He showed me a ticket that must have fallen from my purse when I'd stretched my muscles. I nodded and put it back inside, all while unnerved by his stiff motions. Everyone brought an identification card to verify their own tickets. In other words, the tickets had everyone's name on them. Kate read Shiria's name and called for her. Mia was there with her own purse, which contained 3 tickets. When she stretched, one fell out, meaning that her purse hadn't been closed. In World B, when Shiria opened her purse, she unzipped it. The tickets couldn't have fallen from her purse, as it was closed since long before 9. Hopefully, it was enjoyable to catch any of these details. However, although Shiria's absence could be reasoned out, it wouldn't be surprising if your gut told you something was wrong before that. For everyone who'd gotten trapped in a tower, Shiria was a girl who had died weeks ago. When the group went up the floors, Atsuki found the key for the security room. Everyone splitting up created the chances for individuals to accomplish what they needed. The next time they reunited, Sai noticed the sound of keys coming from Kate's pocket. They were louder than they'd been before. When Kate was confronted, he showed them a set of keys belonging to Naomi. However, that's when he himself noticed something. Wait, the keyring was there? I would assume, because Atsuki found the key for the security room, I assume that's what it means. A key was missing from it. The question is, was the key that Atsuki found, was it Kate's key or was it Naomi's key? Because if it was Naomi's key, then it wouldn't have been missing on the set that Kate was showing. And I think it was Kate who lost the key. There was a second set of keys under it. If there was, then either he time traveled at some stage, but I don't think that any of that had happened yet, or it was his own keys that were below, in which case he wouldn't have noticed that. He should have probably just known. That the keyring was there, I don't know how that makes any sense, so I'm gonna go with that. I might be wrong. Okay, there were 2 identical keyrings in his pocket that had made the metallic noise even easier to perceive. Yeah, that figures with, the louder noise, I just don't understand how it made any sense. At that point, Kate had traveled to the past one time. Oh, if I had known that, that would have made a lot more sense. When did he travel to the past? Because this is pretty much as soon as they entered the tower. Like, sure, maybe 10 minutes later. Okay, I have no memory of this. Upon appearing, he hadn't realized that the keyring Naomi had left behind had suddenly appeared in his pocket. Then when he had come across it, he had put it inside. In that way, he came into possession of 2 copies. When Sai made him reveal it, he didn't know a second one remained in his pocket. That fact was what shaped Kate's actions. In this world, he insisted the attic should be kept locked, and he made sure the Sekimeiya cabinet would always be. That way he could unlock them with his secret set, setting up Atsuki and Mia, who had the other one, as the only possible culprits. Sai thought of a way to know whether that set was Naomi's. If one of the keys opened the attic, Kate's lie would be exposed. Before they got there, he decided to test if something else Kate had said was invalid too. On the 6th floor, he attempted to call the elevator, which should have been disabled. They waited, but it never came. I'm gonna say it had already been enabled. This is a complete guess. But I'm gonna say it had been enabled. Well, it depends on what exactly you mean by disabled and enabled. Because technically, to me, like an elevator where one door is open so the elevator won't run is not disabled. It's just currently not going anywhere. Disabled to me would mean the elevator is not functional. So that's gonna be what I'll complain about if this answer is wrong. I'm joking, but I don't know. Yeah, however, at that point, the elevator was already working again. It made more sense with the phrasing. The first time Kate traveled to the past, he walked to the crystal floor. He saw an Atsuki from another world, which later made him question what everyone was saying. Most importantly, he saw people leaving the security room, which strangely had been unlocked. That was his opportunity to shut the computer down. Since he was alone and hadn't told everyone about the camera's green lights, in this world he was able to power off the entire security system too, as opposed to just one camera. Later, when Sai called the elevator, Kate had already enabled it because he had found the attic key. However, it didn't come. Kate suddenly froze up. Did they notice their mistake? The elevator was disabled. That's much more likely to have gone wrong. If it had been working for some reason, the button would have lit up when it arrived. The orange light never appeared. The elevator was already there, and you might recall that was the case in World B as well. And not only that, Atsuki from World B was spying on the group, and when they entered the attic, he was on the 6th floor. He heard the elevator, but only once when Isla Erina, Sai and Akro took it down. In other words, since it was called from the attic and Atsuki B only heard it once, it must have originally been on the 6th floor. Either way, nobody saw through his ruse, and thanks to that, Kate was able to set up a stronger illusion later on. When everyone entered the attic, they saw the strange footprints on the floor. They led to the sofa where the future Sekimeiya was. Most people believe the Sekimeiya should have been on the crystal floor. If that was the case, someone had to have brought it up very recently, but it didn't seem possible for them to have left the attic. That made Sai call the elevator, and it actually did arrive. That was the illusion Kate pushed for, that the elevator had just been enabled, that someone had been in the security room after they'd all stepped into the attic. Following that, when everyone saw that the computer had lost power, what he said was reinforced. It must have happened after they had tried to call the elevator on the 6th floor. At the same time, the Sekimeiya had disappeared from the cabinet. It must have been brought to the attic. However, Sai knew the truth. Just like in Worlds A and B, he had quickly hidden the fake Sekimeiya when everyone had split up. So the one they'd brought from the attic was different. That was when everyone else learned about time travel. Right before their eyes, Kate went to the future. Atsuki reeled. He had to learn more about the Sekimeiya. He stayed close to it, and when the crystal floor had been inspected, he touched it. He went minutes to the future, but he wasn't alone. Sai had specifically gone to find the fake Sekimeiya he'd hidden, wondering whether it was still there, as well as whether it shared the same powers he'd witnessed. As he was returning to the event room from Hoi B, he traveled with Atsuki. Atsuki appeared in the attic, which was locked. The elevator had been left open on the crystal floor, so he couldn't leave through it either. However, Sai appeared on the crystal floor since his group had left the attic earlier. He realized the elevator was open and allowed Atsuki to leave. When they met, they thought they'd gone minutes to the past, although neither of them spoke about it. Atsuki recalled Sai had gone missing, so finding him in the past wasn't strange. His misinterpretation arose due to Sai's watch, which had ended up minutes behind. When they returned to the others, they saw that everyone was in the security room. As we turned around, we saw Sai staring at us next to the unassertive Atsuki. Where were you? Me? I just took a detour to the bathroom. Sai wasn't exactly aware of how blatant this lie was. According to his watch, he should have been missing for very little time, but it had been much longer than he thought since he'd vanished. He didn't reveal what had happened to him, and because of that, he was the only person aware of the Sekimeiya's range. Hours later, Suripo's dead body suddenly appeared. There's one last thing to settle. Who killed Suripo C? Okay, who would have killed Suripo C? I think all Naomis were already gone or dead at that point. Isla, why would she? Erina, I mean, she's a bit crazy, but only to people who she believes have done her wrong. So, Suripo, I don't think so. Kate, Akaro and Sai are always good possibilities. I don't think either of them would have. So it's one of those three. Surely. Who would have killed Suripo? I don't think Sai... Well, it was a knife wound, wasn't it? And Sai had a knife at some stage. I don't think the others ever had a knife. The question would be... Where has Sai obtained the knife? I don't think we ever really got a solution to that. So what if Suripo brought the knife in and Sai took it from him? There's also always the possibility that someone else stabbed Suripo and Sai just found the body and, you know, they left the knife in the body or whatever. Sai found it and took it. I also don't know if the world where Sai had the knife was this one or another one. But I will say Sai, just because it's the most... It's the only one where I have even a little bit of an indication. I don't really know why or what kind of motive Akuro and Kate would have to kill Suripo. Yeah, I don't think they have a super strong motive. I might be wrong about that. Now the question of which world, Sai? I have no clue. So I'm gonna go with Sai B. Naomi still hadn't been found, and it seemed like nobody else could have committed the crime without having traveled through time. That belief led to a whole search with no results. Something very important was found though, the storeroom's secret corridor. Upon its discovery, you likely noticed that someone's actions differed from World B's. In World C, Sai did something to, in the future, know whether the door had opened. That did not happen in World B. The reason was the piece of duct tape they'd all seen. It had reminded Sai of his favorite novel, which made him think of setting up a check on that door. After that, everyone ended up in the attic, where they hoped they could calmly spend the rest of their isolation in the bedrooms. Of course that wouldn't happen. It was Sai who soon tried to go back down unnoticed. What if Atsuki and Miya hadn't alerted everyone to his departure? Shirei and Atsuki stayed in the attic. Sai had gone to the crystal floor, but they didn't follow him down. Shirei let out a sigh. They had no strength left, so they kept resting, trying to ignore what was happening around them. Indeed, your choice made Miya become Shirei. The world changed drastically. The butterfly effect amplifies even a single unwitting change. In that world, Miya couldn't have been saved. However, you wanted to know what would have happened if Sai was let loose. That caused Miya to be replaced by Shirei. That was one of numerous changes, alongside... That's an interesting one. So, I think the game hinted that it was indeed Sai who killed Suripo. It never outright mentioned that it was, and it never specified the Sai from which world it was. It may have hinted at enough in that sentence so that you can figure it out, but it didn't say it. So I'll just assume I was right. I don't know, maybe it was a Sai from a different world. Anyway, what was different? Naomi's death, Kate's absence, the appearance of Isla's friend. I know we've talked about Kate's absence at some point. We've talked about all of these at some point. Which was different? This is a world where we have Shirei, right? So this is technically what we're talking about now, because the game just said it made Miya become Shirei. So the world Shirei is in is the one we're talking about now, which is chapter 1. And I think, if I remember correctly... wait. I think Naomi's death only occurred in chapter 1. Or, maybe in some other stages. But I kind of think she just disappeared in the world where Miya is. Did she? I don't remember. The appearance of Isla's friend is also... Wait. When they say the appearance of Isla's friend, I'm assuming they mean where she actually came into the tower. In which case, I don't think it's that world. It did happen in only one world, that's for sure. I kind of want to go with Naomi's death. I think any of these could be possible. Okay. 6 pairs of eyes saw the identical scene. It was Kate's absence. Okay. The storeroom's door hadn't been locked, so he'd been able to leave before everyone awakened. In that world, nobody had told the group about keeping the Sekimeiya cold. That's an interesting thing, though. I don't know if it's just my memories have been so mixed up through all of these timelines, but I don't remember ever being in a world where there was no Kate. To me, Kate was just there all the time. Dude, this whole thing of him not being there is something I didn't experience, or I didn't notice while I was going through it. Or if I did, then I don't remember noticing it, which is very strange. Sai roamed free for a long time, and on the crystal floor he had access to both Sekimeiya. With his watch, he was able to figure out the basic mechanics behind traveling to the past and future. I guess there were some timeline or world changes already in chapter 1 and 2 that might have made it appear like Kate was there to me, because I didn't realize that we changed worlds, and that's why I didn't notice. That may be an explanation. That's how he came up with a plan to remain with Sekimeiya. What did he do? When he came back up, he showed everyone what the Sekimeiya were capable of. Right now you understand them a lot more than at that time. However, you might still have trouble figuring out what Sai did. He had to pull out something fairly clever to trick everyone. If you ever want to go back and attempt to see through his scenario, I hope you're able to beat him. Alright, you're not gonna tell me. Okay. Well, if I ever want to go back, then I will. I probably won't. So, if you want to tell me in the comments, if you have gone back, if you figured it out, I'd welcome that. Maybe put it, like, at the bottom of a comment or something, so that you have to, and mention at the top that you will say so, just in case people don't want to be spoiled for it, if they want to figure it out themselves. In reality, Atsuki and Miya brought everyone to the crystal floor in an attempt to find Sai. Before he was seen, the past Sekimeiya was found in room B6. Sai was in the event room, and he suddenly heard people approaching. Hoping it would let him escape, he touched the future Sekimeiya. You scared the fuck out of me. Holy shit, what the fuck are you doing? You almost hit me with the door. He thought he was safe as soon as he touched it, but the door still burst open. Don't you think that's a better question for you? What are you doing? I'm doing absolutely nothing. We turned to Kate, who hadn't interrupted us. He was perplexed, staring at his empty hands. What's up with you? Where's the Sekimeiya? What? I have no... It disappeared. I legitimately felt it disappear. Excuse me? Both had disappeared, as a world switch had been triggered. Oblivious, they found themselves in World A. Sai spun and looked at the cabinet covered by the curtain. Then he looked all around the room with a slight frown. I was also moderately puzzled. Kate couldn't have been lying. He didn't have the Sekimeiya, it wasn't on the floor, and he couldn't have hidden it anywhere without us seeing it. Out of nowhere, the cabinet was covered by its curtain. However, that was nothing compared to what awaited in hallway C. The panel to call the elevator was gone. All of them were. They had been ripped off on every floor. Wait, we didn't lock it, did we? What? You're right, I forgot to tell you to lock it since I was annoyed Sai had left. Well, someone's definitely in here then. Is it time to have a talk with Naomi? I wonder if she knows we can enter. In the living room, their footprints had disappeared, and Kate was the lucky person who found the future Sekimeiya in the open refrigerator. Opening it had been the last thing Sai A would ever do. Atsuki wanted to look at the bias's time, but the security room was locked. In addition, Sai realized the mark he'd left in the storeroom was gone. He was convinced someone had opened it, so he marked it again. Of course, that was far from the truth, but it made them believe that someone else had entered the tower. The next time they attempted to enter the attic, it was locked again. We all stared at the door in shock. It was locked. Someone else is certainly in this building. I left the attic just now. The truth behind that was the secret keyring Kate still had. Long before he traveled to the future, he'd left it in the security room so that he couldn't be found with it. He'd been able to retrieve it when he'd appeared there. He'd left the key inserted in the door because he knew what had happened with the elevator. It was in the attic despite the panel having vanished. Inside, he'd found that world's attic key. In other words, he could keep everyone from entering the highest floor by locking the door in. He left it by bringing the elevator to the 6th floor. He could keep it there as a hidden way up. Since he had his set of keys, he could always access the attic through the elevator he'd prepared. But it was found when Atsuki attempted to open it. Inside, there were the bodies of Naomi C. and Shirei A. The shock was natural. Naomi hadn't been seen for hours, and Shirei had supposedly died weeks ago. It was undeniable that her existence was related to Atsuki and Miya. But nobody knew what had happened to the two women, and all they could do was bring them to the lobby. With the elevator, the group was able to reach the attic again, where they found the single key in its inner keyhole. Over 30 minutes later, a new dead body was found near the hallway C stairs. Right, which I remembered it was Erina. Give me some credit for that. Which Erina? They're currently in World C. Which Erina? Was it actually a dead body though? I will believe it was Erina A. Let's go. It was Erina A's. Erina C, who they'd been with, was in room A1 with Isla. Meanwhile, the World A group was waiting in room B4. After Sai, Erina had been the second person to leave. Don't lie, it can only be you. You killed them. Who killed Erina A? Wait. It can only be you. You killed them. Let me actually look through. I'm curious where exactly that was said and what the context of it was. Give me an exact match, please. Okay, it's not this one. Yeah. Sai's right, this wasn't an accident and I heard it. I was in the first partition of the 2nd floor when I heard Erina. Her voice hardly reached me, but the words I picked up were enough to understand what was happening. Oh, it's okay, they specified it's the real culprit who killed her. I don't know necessarily. I don't remember enough of the context here to remember what had happened around it. Who is someone who would kill Erina? I think it was somewhere here, but where is it? Which chapter crossover? Atsuki appears from the 2nd floor and makes me rush down with him. Erina is dead next to the stairs. He heard her accusing someone of being the culprit before she died. Who would Erina accuse? Yeah, I can do this. Realistically, it's gonna be one of those three again, right? Because even if she was accusing someone of being the real culprit who was someone else, like, especially Atsuki, Shirei, Miya, and probably Naomi as well would have talked it out with her. I don't think they would have killed her. The other three are ruthless enough. I don't think Akira would have. If he was convinced she figured him out, maybe. But I feel like Akira is unlikelier than Kate and Sai. And I feel like Sai was already the answer to the last one. And I think it was a push. I don't think Sai is the kind of person to kill someone by pushing them. And then I think she just cracked her head open or something on the stairs. In that case, it could also have been, like, partially unintended to kill her. I kind of want to go with Kate. Which one? No clue. Kate B. Everyone saw Erina's body atop a pool of blood. Someone had just killed her, and Atsuki had heard her words before dying. She had confronted who she thought was the killer. However, it quickly became clear that nobody could have easily committed the crime. Everyone stated what they'd been doing. Atsuki said that after being the first to leave the attic, he'd spent a few minutes on the second floor. He said that at one point he heard the elevator once. Mia said that she'd left second and remained on the third floor until Atsuki ran up from below, letting her know what had happened. Sai and Kate claimed to have been above them, and their versions of events seemed to confirm each other. Akro claimed to have left the attic last when Eren and Isla had still been sitting on the sofa, and that afterward he'd stayed on the 6th floor alone. The elevator was on the crystal floor. Since the panels hadn't been reattached, the one button must have been pressed from the attic. It seemed like nobody could have performed the murder simply. The only way to get to the crystal floor after Atsuki's departure would have been by riding in the elevator with Eren and Isla. However, if that had happened, they couldn't have ended up above Atsuki when he'd gone to find everyone. Nobody had seen them walking up, and the elevator hadn't been heard again. There were 3 main options in everyone's minds, and one was correct. Okay, Atsuki was lying. I would find that funny, but I'm not gonna go with that. Someone they hadn't found was the killer, or a Sekimeiya had been used. Now, I believe that even if someone that they hadn't found was the killer, a Sekimeiya would have been used anyway. Not necessarily for this, but the Sekimeiya had been used at some stage. I think this... yeah, I think a Sekimeiya had been used as the most likely. So I'm gonna go with that. Atsuki hadn't been lying. Everything he said was the truth. People they didn't know about were present in the building, the World A group. However, none of them had left room B4. The answer had to be the Sekimeiya. Someone would travel through time and kill Erina. For them, that seemed like a fickle solution. There was no way to prove it. If that was the case, unless the culprit had already escaped, they had to search for them. However, for you, that solution might seem odd. You know what happened in that world. The past Sekimeiya was in room B4 with the World A group. It was in the cabinet where Akro had put it, and it wasn't activated until he and Isla world switched to World B. After that, what happened to it? Shirya B found it, and was able to world switch to World B. Later on, Sai B found it as well, and world switched back to World B. Lastly, Atsuki A found it, and also world switched to World B. That was it. The past Sekimeiya from World A wasn't activated ever again. So then who killed Erina? How did her killer show up before her and pushed her up the stairs? Her killer had traveled from the past is possible, because we just said a lot about the past Sekimeiya. We didn't say anything about the future Sekimeiya. Her killer world switched in front of her is also possible, but are we saying he world switched before or after he killed her? Because I think after doesn't make a lot of sense. So it would have been before, and how would he have escaped? Or she, I guess. So I don't think that is it. Erina traveled through time after she saw who she thought was the killer. So we're saying... wait, but then how would she have ended up dead in this world? Maybe I'm not thinking this one through enough, but I feel like this is the most... especially with how the game went on about the past Sekimeiya just before this. Using the future Sekimeiya seems like the most intuitive solution, which may not always be the right one, but let's go with it. The past Sekimeiya couldn't have been used to carry out her murder. The key to solving it was the future Sekimeiya. There we go. It was the one that Kate had found in the kitchen refrigerator. He hid it somewhere in the attic, which he locked, intending to keep it away from the others. Before the World C group arrived in World A, only one person had touched the future Sekimeiya, Sci-A. However, he immediately died when he arrived. In other words, nobody from World A could have killed Erina. Before her death, the World C group had been on the crystal floor. Anyone who traveled to the future could have appeared there, bypassing Atsuki's view. But that wouldn't have been all. After appearing there, they would have had to make it above him, and such a thing didn't seem simple. No Sekimeiya could have been activated on the crystal floor, and the elevator never went back up. People were leaving, and Isla said she wanted to come down too, since she still hadn't seen all the gems. I'd noticed she'd been trying to cheer herself up a little despite the 2 bodies we'd found, so even though I didn't want to leave, I let her just so that it took her mind off it. People were leaving. Aaron and Isla were on the sofa then, and from their point of view not everyone had left the attic. There's only one person who could have done it. I walked to the bedrooms and opened the left one. I needed to throw myself onto the bed and be alone for some time. I stood in the middle of the floor-free corridor. I didn't want to see people, so I'd been thinking to myself. Wait. As anyone could have been anywhere, all I wanted was to wait. I could perceive faint footsteps above me, signaling someone was on the 4th floor. I approached the potted plant and sat next to it. Calmly, I kept feeling the seconds pass, appreciating the sensation. Are we saying it's Mia? Are you alone? Or where are the others? He was pretty agitated, so I kept my composure and waited for him to tell me what had occurred. Everything about him gave away that he'd seen something frightful. Erina's body lay facing down over a vast pool of blood, traces of which started in the middle of the staircase. I didn't have to walk further down to know she was dead. I think someone was on the floor above me at some point. Were you alone when you found her? I kept walking down while I silently wondered why he'd been alone. On the floor of hallway C, I pressed 2 fingers to Erina's body and waited for any perceptible movement. It's not possible for us to take the elevator, so let's walk up. We should come across someone. My heavy breathing was interrupting my words, and I didn't let my gaze stray from Erina. Being so close to her, I noticed that blood was coming out of the part of her head that had hit the edge of a step. With what we talked about, could Erina's killer be identified? I didn't think so, but there was a chance I was failing to consider something. Okay, so we're not saying it was Mia, we're just saying that something Mia said was relevant. She was there, casually leaning against a line of cabinets. I could hardly believe what I was seeing, but there was no wariness in her eyes, and not even a trace of blood near her. Most people weren't aware that traveling to the future was possible. When Mia noticed the peculiar smell again and touched the Sekimeiya, she immediately thought she'd traveled to the past. She appeared where she'd been in the past. It was what happened before. That made her think she'd gone back in time. She was alone above the hallway C stairs when she suddenly heard Erina's voice. Don't lie, it can only be you. You killed them. Erina had seen the bodies in the lobby. Shiria had died, but she'd just been in the crystal room. Sai hadn't come back. Naomi was dead, and earlier in the day what had happened with the elevator buttons convinced Erina that the killer was someone they'd been unable to find. Mia. So we are saying it was Mia.